What Jennifer Gledhill said in a recorder phone call will send shockwaves down your spine.
The disappearance of Matthew Johnson, a Utah father and husband, and the arrest of his wealthy wife, Jennifer Gledhill, for first-degree murder.
On September 28th, Jennifer Gledhill called police to report her husband, Matthew Johnson, missing.
Jen in our home before and, breaking bread with them. And then it turned out that she's responsible for his death. It was shocking, frankly.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a case that, on the surface, looks like the quintessential American dream. But underneath, it was anything but. Jennifer Gledhill and Matthew Johnson had built what most people would call a beautiful life together. A spacious home in Cottonwood Heights, Utah, 3 kids, and a husband who wore the Green Beret with pride. Matthew, 51, had given over a decade of his life to the Utah National Guard's 19th Special Forces Group, the kind of soldier his brothers-in-arms called dependable, sharp, the guy you went to when you needed a straight answer. Jennifer, 42, was known around the neighborhood as warm, down-to-earth, a devoted mom who kept the home running while her husband served. From the outside, they were the picture of stability. But pictures lie. By July of 2024, the marriage had quietly begun to unravel. Court documents would later paint a portrait of a relationship that had been toxic for quite some time. That August, Jennifer took legal action, filing for a temporary protective order against Matthew. But when the case landed in court, things didn't go the way she expected. 3rd District Commissioner Russell Minnis reviewed the evidence she brought forward and reached a conclusion that surprised many. The videos Jennifer submitted, in his view, actually showed her as an active participant in the conflict, not a victim of it. The text messages she had sent Matthew were described by the commissioner as repeatedly demeaning and belittling, almost as if she were trying to provoke a violent reaction from him. On September 16, 2024, Commissioner Minnis dismissed the protective order entirely. No abuse, he ruled. And in his written decision, he made an observation that now reads like a warning no one heeded, that this was a deeply dysfunctional marriage, one that had been pushing both people toward their worst selves, and that divorce proceedings should have started long before things reached that point. What he couldn't have known was that Jennifer had already decided divorce wasn't part of her plan. In those final weeks, Matthew's friends noticed something was off. He had grown uneasy enough that he stopped sleeping at home altogether, choosing instead to bunk at a National Guard facility. He confided in his longtime friend, retired Guardsman Kevin Thompson, that he knew it was over. He was ready to walk away and start fresh. He never got the chance. What Matthew didn't know, couldn't have fully grasped, was that Jennifer had been living an entirely separate life. There was another man, and this wasn't some passing distraction. By all accounts, it was an intense, consuming relationship that had taken deep root in her world. 2 days before the murder, on September 19, 2024, Jennifer showed her lover something that, in hindsight, was a glaring red flag. She pulled out a Glock 19X and showed it to him. A loaded firearm kept right there in the family home. He didn't think much of it at the time. Military families and guns, it wasn't unusual, but that moment would become one of the most chilling details in this entire story. What investigators uncovered next made one thing clear. This was not a crime of passion. It was planned. Jennifer had quietly arranged for her 3 children to spend the night at their grandparents' house before it happened. The stage was already set. September 20th, 2024 started like any normal day. By nightfall, it wasn't. Matthew had discovered the affair. Witnesses recalled a fierce argument that evening, years of dysfunction finally exploding into the open, but the argument wasn't the end of it. In the early hours of September 21st, while Matthew slept, defenseless and unaware, Jennifer took his own 9mm handgun and shot him in the head. What followed was methodical. She loaded his body into a storage container, dragged it down the stairs, and put it in their minivan. She smashed his phone, abandoned his truck in a nearby neighborhood, then drove north and buried him in a shallow grave that has never been located. Back home, she bleached the walls, deep cleaned the carpet, and ordered a brand new mattress to replace the one soaked in his blood. But she made one critical mistake. On September 22nd, she showed up at her lover's door and told him everything: the shooting, the body, the cleanup. He noticed bruises on her. She explained, almost casually, that she got them while burying her husband. He was terrified, so he started recording. Their next phone call became one of the most chilling pieces of evidence in the case. When he told Jennifer he was scared, she responded, "He's not a person. He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt." When asked if she'd be afraid in his position, she said, "Not if I deserved it." She went on to casually compare herself to the Queen of Hearts, then asked him not to think of her as a monster. This conversation happened before Matthew was even reported missing. She was already speaking about him in the past tense. 6 days later, she filed a missing persons report. But her lover had already been collecting screenshots and recordings. On October 2nd, he handed everything to police. When investigators searched the home, they found blood soaked into the carpet beneath the bed, stains on the bed frame and walls, the overwhelming smell of bleach, and a brand new mattress. GPS data from Jennifer's phone tracked her movements the morning of the murder, placing her exactly where she claimed to have been. On October 2nd, Jennifer Gledhill was arrested for first-degree murder. Then came another twist. Her parents, Thomas, 71, and Rosalie, 67, were arrested weeks later on obstruction charges. Records showed they had spent over 5 hours at Jennifer's home during the cleanup period, despite claiming it was a brief visit. Rosalie had purchased the new mattress, her phone had been remotely wiped, and when Thomas was questioned about the master bedroom, he said, "I did not go in where the incident happened," accidentally confirming he knew something had happened there. Matthew's body has still not been found. Searches across multiple counties have involved over 70 people, including his fellow Green Berets, who continue organizing their own search parties. A storage container recovered from water was found to contain his blood. But Matthew himself remains missing. Jennifer has pleaded not guilty to all charges, including first-degree murder, obstruction of justice, tampering with a witness, and abuse of a human body. Her trial is set for December 8, 2025. She remains in jail, denied bail after prosecutors revealed she told her lover she would rather shoot herself than face prison. 3 children, 11, 7, and 5, have lost both parents, one to a bullet, one to a prison cell. Matthew's family has one simple request: that someone come forward and tell them where he is so they can finally bring him home. Somewhere in northern Utah, a father and a Green Beret lies in an unmarked grave, and the only person who knows exactly where is still not talking.